I think tonight we'll read this section and then I have some stuff to say, but I want to say it later, so maybe just we'll open it for sharing. And hopefully you guys won't wait so long that I just end up jumping in. Then the mother of Zebedee's sons came to him with her sons, kneeling down and asking something from him. And he said to her, "What do you wish?" And she said to him, "Grant that these two sons of mine may sit one on your right and the other on your left hand in your kingdom." But Jesus answered and said, "You do not know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I am about to drink, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?" And they said to him, "We are able." So he said to them, "You will indeed drink my cup and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with. But to sit on my right hand and on my left is not mine to give, but it is for those for whom it is prepared by my Father." And when the 10 heard it, they were greatly displeased with the two brothers. But Jesus called them to himself and said, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and those who are great exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among you. But whoever desires to become great among you, let him be your servant. And whoever desires to be first among you, let him be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." Now as they went out of Jericho, a great multitude followed him. And behold, 2 blind men sitting by the road, when they heard that Jesus was passing by, cried out, saying, "Have mercy on us, O Lord, Son of David." Then the multitude warned them that they should be quiet. But they cried out all the more, saying, "Have mercy on us, O Lord, Son of David." So Jesus stood still and called them and said, "What do you want me to do for you?" They said to him, "Lord, that our eyes may be opened." So Jesus had compassion and touched their eyes. And immediately their eyes received sight, and they followed him. Now when they drew near Jerusalem and came to Bethphage at the Mount of Olives, then Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, "Go into the village opposite you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Loose them and bring them to me. And if anyone says anything to you, you shall say, 'The Lord has need of them,' and immediately he will send them." All this was done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet, saying, "Tell the daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming to you, lowly, and sitting on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey." So the disciples went and did as Jesus commanded them. They brought the donkey and the colt, laid their clothes on them, and set him on them. And a very great multitude spread their clothes on the road. Others cut down branches from the trees and spread them on the road. Then the multitudes who went before and those who followed cried out, saying, "Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord! Hosanna in the highest!" And when he had come into Jerusalem, all the city was moved, saying, "Who is this?" So the multitude said, "This is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth of Galilee." let's see what happens here. Okay, so I thought this was a very rich section, and we read plenty. And so Jesus is now, he's worked enough miracles, and he's preached a bunch, and he's reached the point of fame now. This is it. His entrance into the city is the point at which the whole freaking world knows who he is. And, raises the stakes, obviously, because it's like certain factions are going to want to put him to death. And so, but our reading opens with James and John, the sons of thunder, and their mother asking if maybe they could be the two most powerful disciples in heaven. Which is freaking awesome. And I guess they say it in front of the other disciples. So the other disciples are pissed. They're pissed off. They're like, you freaking idiot. Who do you guys think you are? And, Jesus, I don't know. I don't know where he's coming from with this. And I want to say, too, though, that it's almost certain that the John they're talking about is the John who wrote the Gospel of John. So I just want you to feel good about if you're full of crap. I thought that might help a little. Like, these guys sat down and asked that, man. They asked him that. And one went on to write the Gospel of John. And the other is the James who Peter kowtowed to in Acts. If James was around, then you had to be circumcised. And a little backstory there. Yes, Peter was selling out, but James was filled with power. He was so filled with power. They called him James the camel kneed, because his knees were covered with calluses from always getting on his knees and praying. James the Great, James the Just. And when you read sort of like the way they spoke about him back then, when you read the literature from the early church, you get the sense that he was revered almost in a state of awe. So these guys were, yes, they started asking to be the greatest two disciples in heaven, but look where they ended. And so that should just be, I hope that makes you feel better, because here's another story about humility. You never escape it with Christianity. Always, as a friend of mine who was Buddhist used to say, bringing you down in a good way. Always bringing you down in a good way. Always reminding you to be small. Christianity always reminding you to be small. To the point where if you don't find some of it, some of the humility, if you don't find some of it, it feels burdensome. Right? I don't know how many of you feel it as a burden now, but you remember when you did. But now, doesn't it feel now like a warm weight pushing you further into God? Because that's how it feels to me when I read it. Thank you. Yes, let me be smaller. Let me go further down. Let me become lower. Thank goodness for low. Because I found the secret hidden places of God in the low. And so, yes, another story. Here's what not to be. Don't be this. And then, it's so funny. But it's probably not very far off from what some people in here have thought. Right? You know. So, starts with that image. We're given the image of, James and John and their mother. Who knows what family pride is involved in this? Like, mom's like, we're great. This is our family is so powerful, and of course we should ask to be on the right and left hand of God in heaven. I mean, of course we should. That's us. I don't know. I'm making that up. Who knows what kind of pride was involved there, right? We don't know. And then the next image we're given is Jesus, who has all the power, all of it, and the glory is thrust upon him, unwanted. And don't you get such a small, humble entrance? You feel it. not on a steed, not with a parade, not on a chariot, right? On these donkeys, one's a baby, right? Small, humble, comes in slow and quiet. The world's cheering him on, but he's not cheering. And those are contrasting images, I think. Contrasting ways. That's Jesus saying, here's the way. And so he asked them, can you take the baptism I will take? Can you drink the cup that I drink? And they say yes, and they do. Actually, well, it's not certain that John did. They actually think John just died of old age on an island after being imprisoned by the Romans and forced to work slave labor for being Christian for years. So, rough, that's his reward. That's his heroic reward for Christ. And James the Just was thrown from the temple publicly. He didn't die when he landed on the ground, so someone came and beat him in the head with a club till he died. That was his death. Martyred for the cause of Christianity. That's his death. So yes, they did. They did follow Christ in that way. They did. I probably shouldn't look at my notes because I kind of want to skip them. So another story about humility, another story about down. And I almost didn't want to talk about down today, but you can't go down far enough. You just can't. And I want to say that if you see it as a burden still, you have not yet found the beauty of it. If you see being told to keep going down as a burden, you haven't gone very far down. Is what I would say. And know that. Down, the only unfortunate part about down is most of us, hide above our pain and suffering. Right? Think of down as God just drawing you into the deepest, innermost secret places of God and the Trinity. That's what down is. The only reason down is a concern for human beings is because we stuff our issues deep down and try to stay above them in this life. That's why down is a problem for human beings. There's nothing about down that is painful at all. The only thing that's painful about down is you get sucked through your issues on the way down. I really mean that too. I mean, I think that's legitimately how it works. And so so Christianity has this need for humility, this mandate for humility. It is the core foundation on which the entire system works. Well, one artist painted made a building with faith and hope and all the virtues and everything as parts of the structure. The stone foundation of the building, humility, on which the entire thing is built. And you know why that is. It's because, why are James and John and his mother asking for greatness? Why are they asking for greatness? Because they're broken. We don't know how. It doesn't matter. But they were not loved enough as a kid, or their parents died, or, we don't know what happened in that family line. But we know there's a wound there that wants to be important. And it craves that recognition of being important and great. And it's because something is lacking. It's because their ego is cracked. It's because they're wounded and damaged and broken. It's the only reason they would ask for something like that. If you catch yourself daydreaming about being seen, it's only because you're wounded and broken. That's why. So we know where that comes from. So Christianity just keeps pushing humility, because until you're all the way enlightened, your wounded self and its desires for what it thinks will heal it, what it thinks will resolve the suffering, they place us at odds with God's will. That's the whole problem. That's the whole problem. Joe is deep down. Joe is afraid he's incapable of connection. He's afraid he's incapable of truly connecting with another human being, and maybe he's not sure why yet. He's been damaged in some way, and he thinks he's damaged goods, or we don't know. But Joe, he's certain that he can never really truly connect with another. So always seeking connection, always trying to force it, always trying to make it happen, reading about how to do it all the time. And in any given situation, Joe is motivated by trying to gain this connection. And Joe can't serve God from there. He doesn't go into the party thinking, God's will be done. Let me be a servant to your children. Show me where to sit. Show me where to be. Show me whom to help. He can't say that. He's driven by his own motives. So it puts him at odds with God. Not because he's a bad guy at all. He's just preoccupied with other motives. And that's everybody. That's everybody. That's the thing about human beings. And so we get, we're caught up in our own, we're driven and controlled, and we're acting on these unconscious or conscious issues, depending on how much progress you've made. And all of that doing and striving is spent. And there's none left for, let me serve. Let me serve. And you see it's pervasive. Anyone who's done anything here can just think, oh my God, right, that's certainly in the way here of me being useful to others. I need to be seen as something. And I'm either wounded because I'm not seen as that, or I'm trying to make it happen. But all of that, it's how can I then say, God, here I am, your humble servant. Let me be a vessel for your love today. How can I say that? I'm preoccupied. Busy. Too busy. So then that's humanity, and Christianity knows it. So then there's only two responses to this. If you know that, if you have that, if you see it, if you've accepted it, then you're going to want to walk in humility all your days. You're not waiting for your big break when they finally all see you. You're not. That's what someone who isn't conscious is doing. That's what someone is doing who's still driven by all the insecurity and the brokenness. See? This is everyone on planet Earth, man. And there's just two kind of ways to respond to that. There's just two ways. One is to, we got to deal with this reality. I'm a broken human being. The egoic way to deal with that is to do a little work and say that I'm not anymore, or never admit there was any work to do anyway, right? Just don't see it. Don't notice it. Be blind to it and seek self-will. That's one way. But the other way is to sink down into humility. To say, look, yeah, I'm broken. That's it. That's the deal. My big break isn't on the way. That's dumb. The ego's thinking that way. That's the ego thinking. When they'll finally see me, they'll finally hear me, they'll finally see how valuable I am. Only a broken, wounded person thinks those thoughts. Only a broken, wounded person thinks those thoughts. That's not what whole people think. at all. So you know you've got this brokenness. You know it drives you to be not a bad person, but just to be preoccupied, unable to serve God in various ways. If you accept that, then the root is stay low. Stay low. In a good way. Low doesn't mean you're garbage. It doesn't mean you can't be useful. It doesn't mean you don't have anything to offer. That's what the unconscious low thinks. Unconscious low thinks that I won't ever be anything, dang it. How long do I got to stay down, man? You know, like before I get my day and shine in the sun, everyone recognizes my greatness and lays flowers at my freaking feet. And palms in the road for me coming into Jerusalem. You know, like that's what broken me says. In their own subtle ways. Maybe it's the sewing club, you know, or, you know, like it's your own little thing, you know, but there it is. Wherever it is, there it is. So down, it's like a burden if you haven't yet found the wisdom to see how great down is. Down is rest. God says you will enter my rest. Don't you want to rest in this life instead of struggle? Doesn't that sound better than trying so hard and vying for it? Isn't that nice to rest? Down stays in touch with ego. It doesn't push it away. Down doesn't say, before asking their spiritual advisor if it's true, I'm through the night. like I've seen people do that. I'm done with it. They've never asked me once if they're done. I think they're not done. I wouldn't dare say it. I wonder who would say it. I wonder how conscious you have to be to say I'm done. I wonder. I don't think I'm done. It's not my primary stage, but my God, have I got to still die? Do I have so far to go? Teresa of Avila, the freaking rocket of power. Lord, I hope I have any of these things I'm speaking of. I hope in speaking like I have them, I'm not offending you, God. Almost apologizing for talking about it. You know? It stays in touch with ego. Low stays in touch with ego. Low is not scandalized by recognizing you're a walking train wreck. It's just okay. Low ceases to gain negative self-esteem from seeing that. Ego, still, it hurts to see it. It's okay if it hurts to see it, man. No one's picking on anybody here. You know, if I get cocky, they'll just show me something that'll hurt to see and they'll remind me to shut up. I mean, I get it. We're all in this together, man. You know? But dude, low, it's okay with low that it's got big problems. That's not a negative self-esteem thing if you're low. It's okay. It's okay. I wonder how I couldn't be. I wonder how I ever thought I couldn't be. I look back and think, how did I ever think otherwise? It's so crazy. How could I have thought that? You know? And what I wanted, I had to be almost perfect to be okay. It's how insane that was to think that way. Low continues to die to self. Whether the night is the main feature of the thing or not the main, doesn't matter. Low's permanent. Low is permanent. If you find a perfected being, you find someone who is infinitely low forever. You don't find a perfected being who said, yeah, I went low until they finally revealed my glory. That's not it. There will be glory, though. There is glory. But they didn't stop being low. it's low. Glory comes sometimes with it, and brightness and power, but the lowness never leaves. And if it leaves, the light withers. If it leaves, the flower dies, because the roots are no longer nourishing it. Low. See, here's the thing, man. Low has almost nothing to do with your issues. Like, it does for us. I mean, it's a big deal, right? I'm a mess, and I remember that, or I'll blow it with people, and I don't want to blow it, and if I blow it, I want to admit it and stop. I want to make course corrections. It has a lot to do with our issues. But it runs way deeper than that. It has to do with your nature, too. Right? Like, you humble yourself before someone. You humble yourself before someone. And ultimately, that's God. And I don't know why it's like this. But with humility seems to come all these things that make one able to commune with God. I wrote all this stuff. I didn't meditate, I wrote. I snuck my folder over. I hope no one heard me. I thought, how rude. There's like these places. John of the Cross talks about the crack in the crag. You get this sense of epic depth. And then you get down to the very, very, very bottom of everything, and then there's this crack, and you go down in that. These hidden places where you finally find the hidden God dwelling. Humility is the way to that. Humility leads to the secret places. The secret places. The hidden recesses of the Trinity. Its innermost states. After the glory, after the uncreated energies, after the bright light, it is the hidden places of God. And they're secret and subtle and sacred. And humility goes there. And nothing else does. And it, I think it's even an energy. I don't think it's like, here's what I don't mean. I don't mean Joe just got so humble that they just became so quiet and sacred and secret and hidden that they attained God. I don't mean that. I think what I mean is Joe started to participate in Christ's humility and found that energy. And that energy is heavy and dark and warm and down. And Joe just started letting go and letting it take him. Bit by bit, day by day, little bit by little bit. And Joe didn't do it, but Joe let it happen in him. He didn't get great humility, so now he could brag about his humility, He didn't do that. He let it happen. He resisted. He fought and surrendered. He said yes. In prayer, he said no with his wife. But yes in prayer, but no, wherever else. And sometimes yes, and then, oh, I'm sorry. And it's like that, right? He did that. The real thing. Not the hero thing we imagine that our ego says will finally be this great hero. Like with the power of 10,000 suns, Like that's the way the ego thinks. That's the way broken self thinks. But he let it happen, and he received it. And it pulled him into those secret places. Hidden from the wise and the powerful and the proud. Hidden from them. Safe from them. Underneath his pomp and bluster, and underneath his need to be recognized or to hide, underneath it all, and in there, in that place, way down in there, is the Father. Way down in there, in darkness, in night, in rest. And with all that pomp left up there somewhere, at least temporarily, with all that moving and doing and wishing and stuff, the bullshit, with no guile and pretense, then Joe became authentic enough to see God. Who was always there. Nothing changed. Except Joe. If you have down tied with suffering, change that. Only suffering because we've hidden above our suffering. That's the only reason down hurts. If a down is tied to humiliation, change that. It's not humiliation, it's humility. And if it feels like a burden, let go so the current can take you. Then it feels a lot more like coasting. instead of being dragged, grabbing everything you can on the way down. Just don't want to go.